This is a recording for the Revised Documentation Practice Standard webinar. The Revised Documentation Standard is available on cno.org in both French and English. It's important to note, although it is available for public viewing, it does not come into effect until February 1st of 2026. During this session, we'll review the rules and function of practice standards, and we'll walk through some of those key updates to the revised standard. To open the discussion, it's helpful to start by reviewing how CNO's practice standards are applied in practice. As many know, practice standards set a benchmark for safe nursing practice. This diagram shows the relationship between practice standards and employer policies. Together, they intersect to inform nursing accountabilities in the practice setting. CNO standards are written in a broad and principle-based way so that they can apply across practice settings and roles. They outline what nurses are accountable for, but they don't prescribe every detail. This approach is intentional. It allows nurses to adapt the principles to different contexts. Employer policies provide contextual and operational details on how documentation is done within the practice setting. The documentation standard was updated because of its critical role in safe and accountable nursing care. Documentation remains one of the most frequently referenced standards in our professional conduct cases, our practice support inquiries, and presentation requests. This shows how central it is to everyday nursing practice. Now, the key updates were shaped by evidence. This included a jurisdictional scan, literature review, and extensive public engagement. A special thank you to nurses, employers, academics, associations, and unions who have shared their insights and helped to guide this important work. As you will review the standard, you'll notice a fresh new format. It makes it easier to read and navigate. We've streamlined the content and removed duplicate information to improve clarity and added new definition to support consistency, and a brand new section, Partners in Safety. This section emphasizes the shared role of employers in patient safety. Finally, we've clarified documentation accountabilities, including one that reflects our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The standard is organized around three key principles: communication, documentation requirement, and information security. Each of these principles include a series of broad and principle-based accountabilities that apply to all nurses in all roles across all practice settings. In the next few slides, we'll take a closer look at each of these principles and some of the key accountabilities within them. Now let's start with the communication principle. This principle is about assuring that nursing documentation communicates essential information that is clear, that's complete and accurate for safe and coordinated care. Nurses will apply their knowledge, their skill, and their judgment to determine what level of details must be documented to provide enough clarity and context so that others can understand what's happened and what needs to happen next. This includes recording assessment findings, significant interactions with the clients or family members, and any relevant conversations with members of the healthcare team. And by doing so, nurses will create a clear and comprehensive record that supports collaboration and continuity of care for patient safety. The communication principle also includes new additions to the standard. such as one that outlines nurses' documentation is free from discrimination and respects how a client self-identifies. We've included an accountability for reviewing documentation for its accuracy when generated through technology such as artificial intelligence. Nurses are also accountable for documenting using employer-approved documentation methods such as templates or flow sheets or narrative notes, and are also accountable for documenting any relevant details to provide a clear and comprehensive picture of the client's health status, any decision making, and care provided. The next principle is about documentation requirements. This principle focuses on the routine documentation practices that are required to maintain a consistent, appropriate, and accurate record. Such as nurses are responsible for applying these practices, including signing each documentation entry with their name and designation, documenting in a chronological order, indicating when an entry is late, correcting errors without deleting the original content, and never deleting or altering anybody else's documentation. We've added several additional accountabilities under this principle, such as nurses should not co-sign documentation entries. Co-signing can blur the accountabilities about who provided care. This means the individual who delivers the care is responsible for documenting it. This is unless there's a formal designated recorder. Nurses are also accountable for documenting the mode of communication, whether it was done in person or by telephone, email, or through any other virtual platforms. And finally, comprehensive documentation means capturing all clinically relevant details in the permanent health record. This including not only narrative notes, but also any image, video, or information exchanged through the use of technology. The third principle, information security, emphasizes the importance of ensuring client information is kept confidential. Health records contain personal health information, and nurses are responsible for protecting that information by keeping it private and secure. The accountabilities for this principle includes accessing only the information that is necessary to provide care, using secure methods when transmitting client health information. This principle introduces new accountabilities, such as nurses must use their unique login credentials when documenting electronically. This is a simple step for ensuring secure access. There's an accountability to obtain informed consent from clients before using artificial intelligence tools for documenting. And finally, if documentation needs to be moved, it must be authorized and transported securely. Now, to build on some of the principles and accountabilities we've reviewed, we've added a section in the standard called Partners in Safety. And this is to acknowledge that standards don't stand alone. CNO outlines broad and principle-based accountabilities where employers establish policies and procedures that guide how these accountabilities are applied in practice. This section also recognizes that some nurses are employers themselves, meaning they hold a dual accountability, both to the College of Nurses and to their role as employers. We've expanded our glossary to include new terms that support consistent understanding of terms that are frequently asked about. Now, for example, we've added definitions for artificial intelligence, late entry, and designated recorder, and others. Do have a look at our glossary. And by adding these definitions, We aim to ensure that nurses and employers and partners share a common understanding of these concepts. Now that we've covered much of the revised standard, it's important to reiterate that the standard does not come into effect until February 1st of 2026. In this important transition period, CNO is focused on supporting the implementation of these revised documentation standard. We've already started by updating our Ask Practice FAQs, which are available online on cno.org, and go to our Ask Practice. These are available online. These resources address common questions nurses ask us about documentation, such as charting by exception, the differences between co-signing and witnessing, and the use of abbreviations. We are also developing micro-learning modules. These are short, focused videos that highlight key changes, offer practical examples for all nurses across sectors, and these will be available shortly, so do stay tuned. And as you're hearing me, today's webinar is also recorded and can be used for your reference, and it is available in both French and English. As we wrap up, it's important to remember that CNO's website offers a wide range of resources to support nursing practice. The CNO Standard and Guideline landing page serves as a central hub to the standards and guidelines. We have an Ask Practice FAQs, as mentioned previously. These answer common questions nurses may have in their practice. We have educational tools such as webcasts and learning modules. We also provide quality assurance resources with templates and examples to help QA accountabilities. And after today, if you have any questions pertaining to your practice, including the documentation practice standards, you could complete a practice support form where you can submit questions for an advanced practice consultant to respond. We thank you for joining our webinar and for your attention. Thank you for joining us, and I hope this session has been informative.